Hello again on this pretty nice afternoon. Not as nice as I would hope, but still pretty nice in the LA area. We're back here on this coast, and we're just trying to enjoy some wine and some good times with friends. And today, I want to talk about two wines. Actually, although there's only one bottle in the picture, two wines that I shared with my good friend here last night. Uh, an Insignia by Phelps, 2007, and the Spottswoode, 1999. I'm gonna talk. We've thought that those two wines would be, a good pair to share over dinner, uh, and we did, and it was really very nice. It was a bit of challenge in the beginning, though. I think we didn't give them enough credit. We didn't air them enough. We kind of were worried about the fragility of an older wine, but overall, I think it worked out really well. But that's a little bit of a tale about that kind of stuff happened, throughout the evenings. We did open them a few hours ahead of time without decanting them. Then when we got together, both of them, we kind of tasted both of them, and both of them were a little bit disappointing, a bit muted. One was acidic, one was a bit bitter, and we couldn't quite tell where the fruit was. But we did notice that there was just a little bit of an attempt to open up, and so we decanted them for an hour. Then we poured them back in the bottles to go to the restaurant. And again, this is like this saga of what's going to happen and when. And over a pretty long evening, they opened up very nicely. And it's just maybe a bit of a shame to have the end of the bottle be the nicest part, but it's often the case, and it gives you an opportunity to watch the evolution. But at the same time, it teaches us to maybe be a little bit more, let's say, forward with opening the wines and decanting them in advance, especially these amazing top of the line California Cabernet that are built for aging. On the flip side, sometimes you can have a bad bottle or something, a bottle that's not perfect. So you open it and it's just like, the one I had before last month, whatever, was amazing. This I'm not quite sure. And so it's kind of hard to take to decide, and you don't know until I guess. But this was great. I think just the Phelps, I want to talk a little bit about that. It's just one of the premier, brands in the valley, very sought after, very expensive, the Insignia wine. And in the beginning, in 2007, to me, is a great, I've had several 2007 big Napa Cab, and they've always been just beautiful, like, white, nicely balanced, good amount of tension, sort of the really what you want in a Napa that's not just brash and young and too forward. But this one, was just there was no fruit. Basically, it was just a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of acidity, nothing bad, nothing disturbing, no bad smell or taste, but it was sort of muted and a little bit dead. And during dinner, it really developed. The acidity stayed there. It was but it was more plush. The fruit came back. We started detecting some blueberry and the nice balance that you'd expect from a wine like that. I don't have any with me here, so we can comment together in real time, but it was really very good. And I think this is what kind of I would expect from a top-notch Napa wine with a good bit of age on it. So I think that kind of checked the box from that point of view. Nothing necessarily, kind of jumping out, but just a very, very good wine to have with dinner. And so here we are now with the Spottswoode, 1999, good vintage, nothing bad about it, nothing extraordinary, but these wines, as we know, age very, very well. The bottle was in great condition, the cork was fully dry, you can see it, and maybe we can see that later. The level was great, and so there was nothing to. And when I opened it, the first nose was really very aromatic. It really looked like it was a wine that was very alive and could be left alone. So I left it alone. But when we tasted it a few hours later, this is where we found that it was closed, and you didn't get the acidity that you get in the Insignia, but a little bit of a bitterness on the sort of on the back of the mouth, and it kind of makes you wonder what that was all about. But again, this is a wine that opened up beautifully during the evening, and I kept a little bit so we can talk about it today and see what we have here. Anyway, so Spottswoode is one of those famed properties in Napa and the St. Helena. So we're walking your way north, from Oakville and Rutherford to St. Helena, and it's in the valley, and it's between two mountain ranges on the west that let the cool breeze from the Pacific come in during the night, and during the day it gets pretty hot. It's very alluvial soil. We're talking, and the whole valley there is just, millennia of sediment and alluvial and underground water, streams and what have you. So it's a pretty well drained, multi-faceted, multi-geology area where you have some really big names like Dr. Crane, Beckstoffer, like Spottswoode, and then others. And then the estate itself is very old, from the 19th century. And it was just an estate with this beautiful Victorian home that's still there today. And then only 100 years later, in 1982, they started bottling their own wine there. They started planting vines in 1972 and bottling their own wine in 82. And very quickly after, before anybody else, they became organic, and they focused on sustainability and putting back into the ground and putting back into the community some of their profits and proceeds. So it's really quite a story there. 40 acres of primarily Cabernet. They make a Cabernet and a Sauvignon Blanc and a few other things from other grapes, not theirs. This is pretty much 90% Cabernet and maybe equal parts Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot. And this is all from their property, so they really have a monopole vineyard, if you want, and full control over their production. And over the years, it's become quite a prized property for the quality, the tension, and the restraint and the balance in their wine. And so here we are. The color is still quite amazing. Very little evolution. I mean, just a little bit around the edge. This is a 25-year-old wine, 26 almost, and it's a little bit, muddy, but that's kind of what you'd expect. I think there's deposit there, there's fruit particles, solidified and floating in there. And on the nose, it's just got this amazing, Napa nose, I call it. It's a little bit of acidity, a little bit of sort of alcohol, like glycerine, some sort of petroleum jelly, kind of very, very distinctive. Some fruit, but the fruit has turned more into like a cherry note, meaning it's a little bit more sour and not as rich as what you would get with a Cabernet, blueberry kind of note, but still red notes. Not very alcoholic. We're talking 13.5% alcohol. The palate. And again, it's going to sound familiar. Chocolate, really dark chocolate, really beautiful acidity, but subdued. So it's a little bit of a mix of the acidity and the tannins that you feel, through all over, on the inside of your mouth. A little bit of that bitterness that's still there, and it's been also noted by some other people. So the bitterness is still there, but to me, that's what I associate with the dark chocolate. It doesn't really bother me. It's dry. At the end, it's that dryness that comes from the tannins, but the length is just amazing. So even for such an old wine, which has gone into its tertiary phase, you still have this real, just lingering effect, both on your tongue and the back of your throat. The tastes, the dryness, the tannins all come together to sort of give you, to remind you, of the wine. And I think it also needs food because that acidity is very present, but very balanced, great tension. It's really what to me, this is what these great Napa Cabs are all about. Kind of moving away from the fruit bomb and really crafting this amazing, just again, tension and balance between all the different components that still is not, European. It is Californian with its richness and an undercurrent of exuberant sort of, exhibitionism, let's say, but still not a fruit bomb. And that's just amazing. Cheers, and then we'll see you soon.